Today I welcome Dr. Ibrahim Ganesh to deliver his lecture. Thank you.
Sir, good morning, everybody. Uh, at the outset, let me congratulate the organizers of this online workshop, particularly Professor N. Ponpandian sir, for making me a part of this workshop entitled All India Council for Technical Education, Training and Learning Faculty Developed Program on Energy Storage and Conversion with efficient nanomaterials. It is being conducted from 5th to 9th October 2020 by Department of Nanoscience and Technology, Bharatiya University, Coimbatore. My topic of presentation is how ARC Hyderabad invented technology can make the energy, environment and life sustainable on Earth. In fact, this is the first time we are announcing this technology to the outside people other than our ARCI. So I'm going to talk about how this technology invented by ARCI is going to influence the society across the globe. The major advantages of ARCI Hyderabad invented technology are: the advantage number one, it provides energy security to almost all the countries across the globe, including India. Today, almost all countries buy fossil fuels, mainly the crude oil, from Central Asian countries to meet their primary energy requirements. Today, India meets about 47% of its primary energy requirement by using fossil fuels imported from foreign countries, and it is expected to rise by 50% in the coming few years. So advantage number one continues. It can also change the global energy economy and energy dynamics of the world. That means once ARCI technology started deploying for public utility, no country is required to import fossil fuels, mainly the crude oil from Central Asian countries. The advantage number two is it makes transformation of energy dependency smoother. That means since carbon neutral high energy density liquid fuels can be produced by following the artificial photosynthesis process developed at ARCI, all the existing energy distribution infrastructure such as internal combustion engines can be utilized. Hence, there will not be any severe economical consequences while transforming from fossil fuel energy dependency to non-fossil fuel, renewable and solar energy dependency. As on today, the best way of storing the surplus and renewable energy in the form of high energy density renewable and carbon neutral liquid fuels is the conversion of carbon dioxide into energy rich fuels such as CO and splitting of water into hydrogen and oxygen gases using electricity derived from intermittently available renewable energy sources, including the sunlight. It is the Hubbards curve. It shows the global fossil fuel deposits capacity. Hubbard says that fossil fuels cannot sustain our civilization's economic growth. As can be seen from this Hubbard's curve, in the next 100 to 150 years from now, all the extractable fossil fuels, mainly the crude oil and coal, will be exhausted. That means we have to find the alternative energy resource which can provide energy for the society. It is a global energy inventory predictions by one of the experts. As can be seen from this slide, in the year 2050, about 28 terawatt excess energy is required for the humanity in compared to the energy today we are using today. Okay, what are the energy that can be taken by the society from the renewable energy resources? As can be seen from this table, it shows the important resources of renewable energy and their capacities. Among the 6 renewable energy sources available, only biomass provides the chemical fuels. Remaining ones, solar, wind, tide, hydro-based, nuclear, geothermal, provide the electricity. When compared among the all the available renewable energy resources, only solar energy provides the energy required by the human beings. No other energy resources can provide the required amount of energy. This slide shows the world energy consumption. As can be seen from this one, in the bottom, the world's energy consumption, each 10,000 terawatt hour per year, correspond to an average value of about 1.1 terawatt energy. So we need about to around 105 terawatt excess energy. Okay, this slide shows the in terms of the percentage. As can be seen, coal is 25% used today, and natural gas is 24% used today, and oil is 34%. All together correspond around 85%. Till today, the whole world meets its primary energy requirement. About 85% from only this fossil fuels, and renewable energies are very meager. In hydro electricity we get around 7%, but it comes only when that dams flow the excess water. Otherwise, the other renewables, including solar and wind, are only less 4% only. Okay. When we get the energy, renewable energy, in which form we have to store and which form we have to utilize, as can be seen from this slide, it shows the energy density of various fuel chemicals. In this one, only the carbon-based energy resources, such as gasoline, LPG, and methanol and ethanol, have the high energy density in compared to all the e-storage batteries, like advanced lithium batteries, supercapacitors, and in terms of, as can be seen from this bottom one, the hydrogen energy density also very less in compared to the fossil fuels, that is like liquid fuels, carbon-based liquid fuels. This table shows the important energy storage methods. So when we get the renewable energy, how we have to use to the society. So compressed air, when you compress to 300 atmospheres, the energy density per kg is only 0.5 megajoules. And in terms of for batteries, it is 0.1 to 0.5 megajoules per kg. For flywheels, 0.5 megajoules per kg. For supercapacitors, it is 0.01 megajoules per kg. And for water pumped to 100 meters uphill, it is 0.001 megajoules per kg. When compared to these things with the fossil fuels, like gasoline, it is 34.2 megajoules per 1 liter only. And methanol, it is almost 15.6%. That means liquid fuels possess about 100 times higher energy density in compared to all the existing energy storageable methods. So this figure shows the effect of global warming on the Earth. Since 1979, more than 20% of the polar ice cap has melted away. At the North Pole, it is Arctic Sea ice boundary. This red line shows the Arctic Sea ice boundary in 1979. Apart from this one, the increase of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is causing severe ocean acidification. The carbon dioxide dissolves in the ocean to make carbonic acid. The amount of acid has increased over the past 150 years. These changes in ocean chemistry can disturb the entire marine food web. As the acid content increases in the ocean, the calcium carbonate based materials will dissolve. It can be seen from the right side figure. Okay. Today, the carbon dioxide the carbon capture and storage process that is called CO2 sequestration is available to address the problem associated with the increase of carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere. So in this CO2 sequestration process, the CO2 captured at power plants using monoethanolamine solution is transported and stored in relatively safe places such as ocean and depleted oil and gas reservoir and enhanced oil recovery and saline formation and unmineable coal beds. So in comparison to the CO2 sequestration process, the carbon capture and utilization has been identified to be the better option than the CCS process. Okay. The cost of CO2 sequestration process. Recently, in 2016, one technology was developed at University of Southampton, England. According to this, the technology, each ton CO2 disposal costs around 1,000 rupees. It was printed in one of the local daily papers in Hyderabad. Okay. Advantage 4. India has signed and ratified both Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Deal imposed by Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change to cut short the CO2 emissions into the atmosphere by implementing solar energy programs and by developing CO2 sequestration process. Recently, the Department of Science and Technology also called for the application proposals to develop the sequestration process to address the CO2 associated global warming problem. Our ARCA technology, once it is implemented, it easily and effectively solves the global warming problem. At present, only the expensive and laborious CO2 sequestration technology is available to deal with the CO2 associated global warming problem. It is also called as carbon capturing and storage process. The major disadvantage of this CO2 sequestration process is it irreversibly blocks carbon dioxide in the form of unstable clitherates under deep seawater below 3,500 meters. In fact, the CO2 shall be closed in a natural carbon cycle for the sustainability of the life on Earth. Once the ARCA technology is deployed for public utility, it is not required to invest any more to develop the CO2 sequestration process, as the waste CO2 gas produced at all the major outlets can be converted into gasoline, that is petrol, eventually by following the artificial photosynthesis process developed at ARCA. As can be seen from this slide, it shows the all India yearly coal consumption for power generation utilities up to 2013. As on today, in India alone, there are 115 thermal power plants, 220 cement industries, and 660 small and big steel plants and huge gas refineries, which all together generate every day several million tons of carbon dioxide, and it is released into the atmosphere. As you know, each ton carbon produces 4 tons carbon dioxide, and the most of the carbon dioxide generated not only in India, across the globe, today is released into the atmosphere. That is the reason it is causing the global warming. So, as can be seen from this slide, these are the top 10 humanity problems for the next 50 years. The first one comes the energy, water, food, environment, poverty, terrorism and war, disease, education, democracy, and population. Once the ARCA developed technology can create several millions of new jobs across the globe, and it can completely eliminate the poverty from the society across the globe once it is fully deployed and operated for 5 to 10 years. After its successful deployment all over the world, at every home, like today mobile phones are used by every individual, in about a decade time from now, from then, almost all the excess CO2 present in the atmosphere can be removed and stored in the form of natural gas across the globe at all the seashores. It requires lesser land area to get a unit amount of electricity from sunlight in comparison to those required by all the existing commercially available sunlight to electricity producing technologies. It is simple, economical, easy, efficient than any of the existing technologies today for converting sunlight into electricity. It involves all the environmentally benign materials and processes. It is very close to the natural photosynthesis process. Then what is the technology that solves all these energy and environment related problems without creating any other new additional problems? The only practicable artificial photosynthesis process. What is artificial photosynthesis? Similar to natural photosynthesis, the artificial photosynthesis is nothing but the storage of solar energy in a form utilizable by the human beings very easily using carbon dioxide and water as energy storing materials. What is the practicable artificial photosynthesis? As on today, there is no technology developed by the human beings. It works like a plant leaf where the conversion of sunlight into electrical energy and reduction of carbon dioxide to energy-rich fuels like carbohydrates and splitting of water into protons and electrons and molecular oxygen can be done. So, since we have to do the artificial photosynthesis process by using in a 3 different separate steps, and then we have to convert into a usable program. Usable fuel. The first process is production of electricity from sunlight. For this process, ARC has invented a completely brand new technology called SLAPE, Semiconductor and Liquid Assisted Photothermal Effect, at ARC Hyderabad for this purpose. And as far as this second electrochemical reduction of carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide is concerned, the process is developed at laboratory scale and invented a new method for this purpose, this process too. And as far as this electrochemical splitting of water into hydrogen and oxygen gases concerned, this process, entire world prior to 1970 were using this process to get the commercial hydrogen gas from water. Since in the 1970 around, the steam reforming of methane process has been invented, and today almost all 96% of the commercial hydrogen gas we get from the steam engine or steam reforming of methane process. Once our the electricity production is started from sunlight by using our technology, that electricity can be used to reduce the carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide, and it can be split, water can be split into hydrogen and oxygen gas. Once CO and hydrogen gases are formed from the CO2 and water by using electricity derived from sunlight, this CO and H2 together called syngas can be used to produce the methanol, and methanol can be eventually converted into gasoline. In fact, this syngas to methanol formation and methanol to gasoline formation are already commercial processes. Okay. Recently, a process for capturing CO2 from automobile vehicles was also developed, and the carbon dioxide capture from internal combustion engine exhaust using temperature swing adsorption method. So, as according to this one, the captured CO2 can store renewable energy by converting produced CO2 into green fuels using co-electrolysis. About 90% of the carbon present in the fuel can be recycled using CO2 capture system, and the remaining 10% can be supplied from the biomass. Yeah. As can be seen from the slides, nature also uses 2 separate electrochemical routes to convert carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight into carbohydrates. They are called photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. In photosystem 2, water is split into molecular oxygen, protons and electrons. And these protons and electrons are utilized in the CO2 conversion into food material, that carbohydrates, in the photosystem 1. In fact, the energy consuming process, that is thermodynamically unfeasible process, is water splitting, not the CO2 reduction to the carbohydrates. So this slide shows the cost economics of electrochemical carbon dioxide reduction process. Without by using the electricity derived from the grid, that is electricity produced from fossil fuels, such as by burning coal or natural gas or oil. Even if you reduce carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide, for 1 ton we get 40,000 rupees profit. But this process is not advisable. You should not convert carbon dioxide to value-added fuel chemical by generating additional CO2 from fossil fuels. The CO2 reduction to any of the useful product is meaningful only when the energy required to drive this thermodynamically energy consuming process has to come from the renewable energy resources only, like electricity derived from sunlight. So the first step of the practicable artificial photosynthesis is electricity production from sunlight. Today, there are 4 methods available to convert sunlight into electricity. The first one is silicon photovoltaic solar cell panels. The second one is dye-sensitized solar cells, which are also called as gradual cells. The third one is concentrated solar power energy. The fourth one is thermoelectric generation, that is Seebeck and Peltier models. Among these 4 methods, only concentrated solar power was partly used for generating renewable electricity in some parts of the world, particularly in Canada. Among these 4, only silicon photovoltaic solar panels have been deployed all over the world to get the renewable electricity to meet the conditions imposed by the IPCC and UNFCCC organizations. So, how much electricity is produced today worldwide using solar photovoltaic cells, that is solar panels? In 2017, among the electricity used by the whole world, only 1.73% of electricity was produced from the solar panels. That means 98% of the electricity still we get from thermal power plants, or occasionally we get from hydropower. Hydropower we got only when dams overflow the water. That time only we generate the hydroelectricity. Otherwise, the society has to depend only on the thermal power plants, which use fossil fuels to generate the electricity. So, among the top 10 solar power plants which generate the maximum electricity, out of them, the 5 are present in India only. The Pavagada solar power plant and Badla solar plant and Kurnool ultra mega power plants. These are the India's, not only in India, in the entire world. They are the maximum electricity producing power plants from the solar energy. Okay. So silicon solar power cells panels were introduced almost 30 years into the market. In the recent past, its manufacturing cost has been come down to the lowest to maximum possible extent, behind which it cannot be reduced further. But despite that, only less than 2% electricity is produced from sunlight. Why that only 2% is electricity produced from solar panels? The reason is because of these limitations, the solar panels are used only less in the society. I will tell you what are the limitations. The maximum achievable solar electricity conversion efficiency is only less than 20%. Hence, they need relatively larger land areas to get the desired voltage power capacities. The light absorption is limited to only 70% of the sunlight reaching the Earth's surface, as its band gap energy is 1.1 electron volts with a corresponding wavelength of about 1127 nanometers. That means silicon in solar photovoltaic cell panels does not absorb sunlight in the range of 1127 nanometer to 2400 nanometer, which is accounted for about 30% of the sunlight reaching the Earth's surface. About 10% of incident light is reflected back into the atmosphere from the front cover solar glass on the solar photovoltaic cell itself. Up to 80%, up to 88% of the incident light on solar photovoltaic cell panels is blocked by the grid and busbar lines printed on silicon cells. It generates only DC current, and conversion of DC to AC is an expensive process. The maximum voltage that can be achievable from solar photovoltaic cell is about 0.5 to 0.6 volts. The solar to electricity conversion efficiency of solar photovoltaic cell panels decreases with the increasing operating temperature at a rate of 0.5 volts per degree centigrade. And there is a reduction of 1% efficiency for each passing year due to weathering of the top glass. It creates considerable amount of local heat island effect when deployed in large areas. They are neither reusable nor repairable. Hence, the post-retirement disposal is a big problem for the solar panels, silicon-based solar panels, as recovering materials from the used solar panels has been found to be a non-profitable venture. It requires direct irradiation of sunlight. It contains toxic heavy metals like lead in the form of interconnectors used for joining several cells in series to achieve the desired voltage requirements. Solar photovoltaic cells are delicate and are easily damaged when accidentally hit by any small solid object. Relatively expensive, as it involves highly complex and sophisticated equipment to fabricate solar photovoltaic cell panels. This process also involves very expensive, highly toxic and pyrophoric liquid starting raw materials in the fabrication of the solar photovoltaic cells. The limitations of solar photovoltaic panels in terms of sunlight capturing efficiency and conversion into electricity are concerned. Since the band gap energy of silicon is around 1.1 electron volts, that is equal to 1125 nanometer, it does not absorb the light with the wavelength higher than 1125 nanometers. The sunlight reaching the Earth's surface with wavelength more than 1125 nanometer is about 30%, as it is extended to about 2400 nanometers. When SPVC is irradiated with 3 electron volts, for example, sunlight from which only 1.1 electron volts equivalent light is converted into electricity, and the remaining 1.9 electron volts is converted into heat. That also in open circuit voltage and short circuit current conditions, only heat is generated and no electricity is generated. Hence, the theoretical conversion of sunlight to electricity by silicon photovoltaic cells panels can never exceed 20%. So this diagram shows the maximum voltage generation in solar photovoltaic cell. Here only up to 0.7% voltage only can be generated because its band gap is 1.1 electron volts. That the material with 1.1 electron volts band gap, it can generate only maximum 7 volts electricity. So this diagram shows the effect of ambient temperature on solar panel efficiency. As can be seen from this diagram, the red line, the rightmost red line, operating at 10 degrees centigrade, it is around 23% voltage will come. But when the operating temperature reaches 70%, it happens during the summer time. That time, that voltage generation falls back to around 18%. So from 23% to 18 volts its energy efficient generation comes down with the operating temperature. This solar panels also causes the photovoltaic heat island effect. The larger thermal power plants increase the local temperatures. Okay. So the solar panels are fabricated in such a way that the in situ generated heat energy by the silicon solar cells are dissipated as early as possible to achieve the maximum achievable sunlight to electricity conversion efficiency. For that purpose, they select the thin 3.2 mm solar glass and very thin 10 into 10 to the power minus 4 thick ethylene vinyl acetate polymers, and they compact into the solar panel. This ethylene vinyl acetate and the glass, the 3.2 mm thick glass ensures that the maximum amount of heat generated dissipates in the atmosphere as early as possible. That is the reason when solar panels are deployed in large areas, they cause local temperature rising. When you compare the atmospheric temperature in the solar panel deployed area from around 5-6 kilometers away, there will be minimum 2 to 3 degrees centigrade difference in the atmospheric temperature. Okay. In order to utilize the temperature generated by the solar panels, people have developed it's like a photovoltaic temperature combi systems. They generate electricity as well as the heat generated was utilized for meeting the temperature requirements at home. For this purpose, they have designed one water tank and the thermal absorber with a black color surface, and these are the solar panels. So these are this photograph indicates some of the commercially deployed systems. In this one, this A contains glazed and this B contains unglazed PVT collectors. Okay. This diagram shows the composition of this photovoltaic temperature combi systems. It contains the top glass, anti-reflective glass, and the second one, this ethylene vinyl acetate encapsulant. These blue colors are the third one, solar PV cells. And fourth one, again, the EVA encapsulant. The fifth one is the back sheet. And the sixth one is the heat exchanger, the copper tube. It collects the heat from generated by the silicon solar cell. The top one is heat insulation. In these silicon photovoltaic solar cells, the silicon cells have to be under vacuum compacted in between the two layers of the EVA encapsulant. If any moisture or air is present in surrounding the solar panels during the exposure to the sunlight, they undergo silicon into silicon dioxide and they lose their sunlight to electricity generating capabilities. That is the reason we have to ensure that during exposure to the sunlight, the silicon solar cell panels do not come into contact with either moisture or carbon, oxygen, because they should not undergo any oxidation. When electrons are excited from the valence band to conduction band, the generated holes and in the valence band and the electrons present in the conduction band have the ability to pull the electrons from the water. That is why they can easily oxidize the water and they undergo oxidation themselves into the in a highly inert silicon dioxide material from the silicon. So this diagram shows the different types of the photovoltaic thermal combi designs employed commercially today for generating the hot water from the heat generated by silicon cells to meet the requirements at home for hot water. Okay. In this photovoltaic thermal combi systems, there are in this situation, sometimes it causes stagnant conditions. In these stagnant conditions, the collector temperatures only depend on the ideal heat losses and the insulation. Consequently, stagnation temperature can reach 220 to 350 degrees centigrade for vacuum evacuated tube collectors, and it generates 170 210 degrees centigrade for flat plate collectors with selective absorber coatings, and 115 to 150 degrees centigrade for flat plate collectors with non-selective absorbers. In the next coming slides, I will tell you why these high temperatures are useful for the conversion of sunlight to electricity by following ARCA developed technology. Please keep this information in your mind. Okay. Apart from the temperature, during the stagnant conditions, the pressure also is very often. Evacuation of the collector fluid occurs even with the flat plate collector, selective coated absorber, and in collector loops with 6 bar maximum pressure. During the stagnant condition, this photovoltaic temperature combustion generates pressure up to 6 bar pressure. Because of this 6 bar pressure, sometimes it leaks the system and it causes some accidents. Okay. This is the disposal problem of retired SPVP panels. For example, in Japan, by 2020, Japan's Environment Ministry forecasts that the country's solar panel waste will exceed 10,000 tons. In 2020, it is 20 to 25 years period from the panel installation. By 2031, it will reach around 1 lakh tons, the retired solar panels. By 2033, it will become 3 lakh tons. Between 234 and 240, it will be between 7 lakhs and 8 lakhs tons per annually. The projected 8 lakhs tons is equivalent to 40 million panels. To dispose of that amount of in a year would mean getting rid of 1,10,000 panels per day. Mrs. Toshiba Environmental Solution Japan says that recycling of silicon photovoltaic cell panels does not provide any profit, as the expenditure incurred for the recycling is more expensive than the cost of the resultant products obtained from the recycled solar panels. Okay. This slide shows the first failure of the silicon solar panels deployed for large scale utilization for domestic purposes. It is in Germany. It's Energy India program. As you can see, however, the first failure of this program has been the requirement of the massive government subsidies from taxpayers' money to operate. And the Germany accelerated the program without much of planning. So it is no surprise that $100 billion was wasted on the installation of rooftop solar panels. Okay. So until humans find a way to capture and store solar and wind energies to be used in a freestanding facility without any backup, renewable energy plants are just an expensive and faulty government experiments funded by the public. Okay. In order to solve the problem, all the problems associated with the silicon solar panels, a new method of electricity production from sunlight called semiconductor and liquid assisted photothermal effector was invented at ARC Hyderabad. Recently, we have filed this process for patent also in India. A device and method for converting sunlight into heat energy using semiconductor materials immersed in a stable organic solvent for electricity generation. So this SLAP technology utilizes semiconducting materials for generating heat energy from sunlight. The main criteria to be possessed by the semiconductor materials are they should have not only the band gap energy, the band edges also very important consideration. They should have low band gap energy and band edges amenable to the liquid we use to trap the sunlight. Okay. This table lists stable organic solvent that can be employed in SLAP technology developed at ARCI to produce electricity from sunlight. If you see the gamma valorolactone, its oxidation potential is around 5.4 volts versus NHE or standard hydrogen electrode, and its reduction potential is minus 2.8. Among this listed this in the bracket red line containing box, none of the solvents have the lesser than 2.5 reduction potential in comparison to standard hydrogen electrode. Their oxidation potential is the minimum one is the 3.2. Against the when you compare with this, compared with the semiconductor materials, except tin oxide only has the oxidation reduction potential more than 3.5 volts when compared to normal hydrogen electrodes. That means except this tin oxide, all other materials, semiconductor material listed here, can be utilized to generate electricity from sunlight in combination with these stable organic solvents. So that means when the semiconducting materials are fully immersed in this organic solvents and exposed to the sunlight, none of the those semiconducting materials can neither oxidize nor reduce these solvents, because these solvents that band edges are very lot in comparison to the oxidation reduction potentials of those semiconducting materials. Okay. So what is the mechanism it is used in semiconductor and liquid state photothermal technology developed at ARCI? So the first step of this our process is we use semiconducting material completely immersed in a stable organic solvent. When that system is exposed to the sunlight, it absorbs the sunlight and converts it into heat energy. The system one, the sunlight to heat energy generating device, its duty is to capture the sunlight and translate it, the absorbed light completely into heat energy. Once the heat energy is generated, we utilize that heat energy to rotate it convert into by the system like reciprocally moved steam engine. It converts the heat energy into a rotational mechanical energy. Once the rotational mechanical energy is generated from the heat source, heat energy, instead of generated from sunlight, one electric generator is attached to this reciprocally moved steam engine that converts rotational energy into electrical energy. This, as you know, this electric generator dynamo uses electromagnetic induction principles, that is Faraday's and Lenz laws of electromagnetic induction. So in comparison to silicon solar panels, the major advantages of our technology are it exhibits all the benefits that are exhibited by silicon photovoltaic cells. In comparison to silicon photovoltaic solar cell, it is economical and stable, as it need not have to employ the expensive materials like crystalline silicon solar cells. Unlike silicon photovoltaic cell, it does not conserve only 70% sunlight for it absorbs 100% light reaching the Earth's surface and converts into heat energy. Unlike silicon photovoltaic cell, its voltage generation is not limited to only 0.7 volts. Okay. Unlike silicon photovoltaic cells, its conversion does not decrease with increasing ambient temperature, and it does not block 8 to 10% light conversion to electricity by the grid lines printed on the silicon solar cells. And unlike LVC, it need not have to be irradiated with a straight line. It does not use toxic heavy metals like lead. There would not be any after-use disposal problem, and it does not create any local heat island effect, and it is reusable and physically robust, and its efficiency does not decrease by 1% for each passing year. However, unlike SVVP, the silicon photovoltaic cells, it needs regular maintenance like locomotive steam engines need. This slide shows how a solid substance and a liquid interacts with the light. As you can see in this one, when the concentration of the solids are very less in the liquid, the light goes to very deep. When the liquid containing VL or solution is it is like a solid substrate, most of the light, irradiated light is reflected back. So the solid particles absorb the lesser amount of incident light when compared to the solution containing solution based systems. That is the reason we have used the semiconductors to absorb the light up to 70% of the light falling on the surface. The remaining 30%, that is IR radiation, will be absorbed by the liquid used in our system. So both liquid and solid together will absorb the complete light falling on them, and they convert that instant light into the heat energy. Okay. So we have monitored. This slide shows light to heat converting material development. In this one, we have taken the boron doped TiO2 powder, and we have suspended it in the methylene blue containing solution and exposed it to the sunlight. As you can see, A to E, the complete light has been decolorized. The point what I want to tell from here is, when we have taken the 2 centimeter width cell, when it is exposed to the light, the simulated solar light, the back side of the vessel, we did not monitor, we did not see any light. So no light has been passed through this 2 centimeter width solution. The solution and TiO2 powder dispersed in the solution absorbed the complete light entered into the solution. Only up to 7% light was reflected from this front surface. That means almost 92% of the light entered into the solution was absorbed by the solution contents. So this is the solar panel we have fabricated at our ARCI. To prove the proof of concept, we have used the commercially available silicon solar cells. We have taken 21 numbers of silicon solar cells, and we have connected them by using some copper stripes, and we have this panel is a 2-compartment device. You can see from here. We have used these different materials to make panel into 2 compartments. The top compartment contains the energy absorbing semiconductor materials. In this case, is the silicon cell, and these cells are dipped in the gamma butyllactone solution. When exposed to this device into the sunlight, the light falling on the system is absorbed by the silicon cells together with the solution, and they generate the heat as a progression of the exposure time. Once the heat is generated in this one, the heat generated in the top chamber is transported into the bottom chamber through a thin copper sheet. It is thermal conductivity of copper is highest among these materials available in the market. It is next to diamond actually. So once the heat is transported from top chamber to the bottom chamber contains dichloromethane. It's a low boiling solvent. It takes the heat from the top chamber through the copper thin sheet, and it gets heated up and boiled. When it is boiled, it generates enough pressures, up to 5 bar pressure it generates. Once the pressure is generated, around 3 bar pressure is good enough to generate the electricity with up to 17 volts. I will show the videos in the next slides. This device it shows the side view of the two compartment device that works according to the SLAP concept developed at ARCI, and this is the top view of the two compartment device that works according to the SLAP concept developed at ARCI. As you can see here, the black ones are the silicon solar cells. This plus symbol ones are the rubber materials we have used to maintain the gap between the top glass and between copper sheet. So we can ensure that the volume of the top chamber is between 2 to 10 liters and the bottom chamber is only 2 liters one. This is the bottom view of a two compartment device that works according to the SLAP concept. This is the reciprocally moved steam engine we have employed to generate the electricity from the heat in situ generated by the silicon solar cells dipped in the gamma butyroactone when they are exposed to the sunlight. It is the schematic diagram of an electric generator we have employed at ARCI to generate electricity from the pressure generated by the solar light. Okay. As you can see from these two figures, this figure is before exposing to the, this is a device before exposing to the sunlight, and this is a device after exposing only for less than half an hour time. As you can see, the volume of this one is larger than this one. So in this solar panel contains aluminum 0.5 mm thick aluminum sheet instead of 0.2 mm copper sheet. When 0.2 mm copper sheet is used in place of 0.5 mm aluminum sheet, the thermal conductivity will be increased 4 times to transfer the heat generated from the top chamber into the bottom chamber. Its device is the 1.5 meter by 7.7 meter width, 1.7 meter width and 1.5 meter length. Okay. These are the results we have generated experimentally by using the proof of concept device we have fabricated at our center. As you can see here, the silicon cells when together used with gamma BL means gamma butyroactone. In the last case, when 10 liters non-working fluid, that means it is a dichloromethane was present in the bottom chamber and 0.2 mm thick copper sheet was there. When the device was provided with the heat insulation given on top as well as bottom, you can see there are two rows are no and remaining rows are with S. And the working fluid, what is that? The dichloromethane is it's only 2 liters. We can use water or dichloromethane. Since the boiling point of water is 100 degrees centigrade, we cannot generate heavy pressure to generate the electricity as soon as possible. For if you use water, you have to wait long time. If you use dichloromethane, within half an hour we start producing the electricity. When this insulation was used and copper 0.2 mm thick copper sheet was used and the gamma butyroactone solution was 10 liters and silicon solar cells and this gamma butyroactone was employed in the system for collecting sunlight from the sun. We have generated 17 volts and 2 amps current. I will show the videos indicating this electricity generation. Sir, are you seeing this one? Videos?
No,
Sir,
no.
the video is not visible, sir.
Are you able to see, madam, this one?
No, sir.
Okay. Then what I have to do to show the video? You are, madam, how to show the video to the audience? Hello?
Sir,
Ah,
you just have to share your screen, sir, and your PC screen should show here, and then you can play the video.
so I have to go from you are presenting that one?
Sorry, sir.
No, see, I have to, you are presenting, from there I have to go, where I have to go to open, it is running on my PC. Video is running on my computer screen.
Oh, okay, sir.
See, now you can see the video. It is, I want to show the video.
So first you want to stop sharing and then reshare, sir.
No, how?
Stop sharing. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now you are able to see, madam?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah. So this is the, what is that? You can see 16.6 AC voltage we are generating. Yeah. This is the electric generator I have fabricated. It contains 4 numbers of neodymium based super strong magnets and 2 copper coils. These are 1500 tons containing 2 copper coils. So this device able to generate 16 volts electricity when the gas, we can see 17 volts AC current, AC voltage is generated. You can see here 3.5. This is the, we have used argon gas to see the effect of pressure on the voltage generation. As you can see here, when the 3 bar pressure is pumped into the reciprocally moved steam engine, it generates around 17 volts electricity with 2 amperes current. I will show you another video. Yeah, this is the device I have fabricated to convert sunlight into electricity. This device we are seeing without the insulation given on the back side and the front side. Yeah. So you see, this is a device we are seeing in from the bottom side. This is the bottom chamber. The bottom chamber contains the dichloromethane, and these are the white iron rubbers. We have placed in between to maintain the gap between the aluminum foil, the white one we are seeing, and the bottom glass sheet. So the volume of this one can be around 2 liters volume. When this device was exposed to the 20 minutes, we have started seeing this boiling of this dichloromethane. Within 25 minutes, when we fill the entire 2-liter chamber, 50% of the liquid.
Sir,
Tell me, madam.
sir, we are not We can't see the presentation now, sir. It's stuck up in the folder section,
But
which has all the videos.
Video, are you seeing video?
Not the video, sir, but the video thumbnails. The
Oh,
folder with the video thumbnails.
Okay, just a minute. Now are you seeing, madam?
No, sir.
Okay, I will then okay, I will stop again and I will do it.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes.
Oh. Why I am unable to see share? Yeah, now you are able to see, madam.
Sir, yes, sir.
Now it's coming, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So actually, this is the device I have fabricated at ARC to convert sunlight into electricity. What we are seeing here is the bottom chamber of the device. It contains the dichloromethane working fluid and this black rubber one has the white and rubber. These white and rubbers we have used to maintain the gap between the aluminum the sheet. It separates the top chamber from the bottom chamber. And this is the bottommost one is the glass. When this device was exposed to the sunlight, within 20 minutes time, you will see the almost 50% of the dichloromethane is converted into its vapor. When we open the valve, it comes like a jet, and that pressure is good enough to rotate the reciprocally moved steam engine to generate electricity. You can see almost 50% of the solution is converted into vapor. I'm stopping this one, madam. Yeah. Stop presenting. Are you able to see my presentation, madam, now? Slides?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
It's okay, madam, now? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This is the single compartment device we have fabricated at ARC. So this device was made to study the effect of TiO2 and magnesium dichloride powders to study its ability to convert light into light heat generating properties. So we have used the simulated solar light. It is the A4 size device. This the blue one, the blue color glass. What we see is a soda lime glass, whereas the glass we have used in the solar panel was it's a solar glass that is procured from the Borosil that contains very low iron impurity. That is why it is fully white. But this silicon, this soda lime glass contains considerable amount of iron. That is why you can see it's a blue color. Otherwise, it should be completely white in color. So the bottom one is the green, the red one is the silicone rubber. We have used it to avoid the heat loss. Actually, Actually, this device should be adiabatically sealed. It should only allow the light to pass from the top to the inside, but no heat generated from the inside. The top chamber should come out of the device to the atmosphere. We have to ensure that no heat loss is there from the device. Then only we can get the maximum conversion efficiency from sunlight to heat energy, then to electrical energy. It shows the exploded view of a single compartment device that works according to the SLAP concept we developed at ERCI. Okay. Everybody knows this solar, what is that? It's the solar spectrum of the sunlight reaching the Earth's surface. The maximum intensity is between visible light and UV only. But in the long range wavelength, you'll see the IR radiation will get the intensity is very less. But from 1100 to 2400, the light reaching the Earth's surface in the IR region is accounted for 30% of the light. So this shows the light capturing ability of doped TI2 coders. So when you see 10% doping of cobalt and iron and nickel and copper, when we employ these each powder with 25 grams and altogether 100 grams, we disperse in the gamma butyllactone, 140 ml gamma butyllactone, and place in the A4 size one. When you expose the light, these all four powders together completely absorb the light falling on them. So these diagram shows the electrochemical stability of doped TI2 coders. These band edges, what is that? This oxidation potentials and reduction potential. If you see all these things, these doped TI2 coders are quite stable when they are completely immersed in the water and exposed to sunlight. These the second step of practicable artificial photosynthesis is called electrochemical carbon dioxide reduction to carbon monoxide. So carbon dioxide can be converted into value-added and fuel chemicals by following total six different methods. The first method is biochemical conversion, like alkyl production. The second one is stoichiometric conversion, in which for urea production and polycarbonate synthesis via copolymerization with epoxides, this stoichiometric reaction does not need any external energy to proceed to form a product. Apart from this stoichiometric conversion method, all the remaining 5 methods, thermochemical conversion and photocatalytic, photoelectrochemical, electrochemical, these 5 methods, they store energy, because since the CO2 is any conversion, CO2 conversion to value-added products, it needs external energy. It has a zero energy, and when you want to convert carbon dioxide to any of the energy-rich product, we have to supply external energy apart from the energy to overcome the activation barrier. That is the reason nature chose carbon dioxide and water as energy storing materials to prepare food to supply to the not only 7.7 billion people living on Earth. The entire life present on the Earth gets the solar energy stored by the plant leaves in the natural photosynthesis process using carbon dioxide and water as the energy storing materials. During cultivation in the fields is nothing but storing solar energy to feed the human beings and other animals. So what I am trying to say, in the stoichiometric reaction, when the CO2 has a zero energy, when it reacts with the urea when it reacts with ammonia to form urea, the ammonia supplies the energy to make a product out of the carbon dioxide. In the synthesis of polycarbonate, the epoxides provide the energy to form the polycarbonates from carbon dioxide. Whereas in the biochemical conversion, like algae production, the energy comes from the solar sunlight, not from the reactants. In the thermochemical conversion also, they supply the energy, like methanol production from there, they generate, it is a high temperature, high pressure reaction. The high temperature is supplied by using fossil fuels. They burn the coal and generate the heat, and they supply to this reactor to convert carbon dioxide, the carbon monoxide and hydrogen gas to the syngas. In the photocatalytic conversion also, the energy comes from the sunlight. In the photoelectrochemical reaction, we give the sunlight or electricity to convert carbon dioxide to a valuable product. In the electrochemical reaction, we supply the electricity generated from either sunlight or from the grid by burning fossil fuels. That electrical energy you have to supply to the reaction to proceed the carbon dioxide conversion into any of the value-added energy-rich products. Okay. This slide shows multinational companies engaged in the industrial production of value-added and fuel chemicals using carbon dioxide as a feedstock. There are only few companies in the world today, they are generating fuel chemicals from the carbon dioxide. George Vola, who got Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2005, he developed a technology. They use geothermal or hydroelectricity to convert carbon dioxide into methanol. And the Bayer Materials Science Plant, Germany, they generate polycarbonates, polyether, polyols by using stoichiometric reaction. That means it does not need any external energy. But reactants, they utilize the chemical potential present in them to convert into the, to proceed the reaction and to overcome the activation barrier. Not only activation barrier, to overcome the thermodynamic energy input also, the chemical supply their internal energy to proceed the reaction. Like RD Germany, AG Germany, they use thermochemical process to make methane, diesel and synthetic fuel from carbon dioxide that they capture from the ambient air. Liquid like Incorporation USA, this is also they use electrochemical route. This is the only process uses electrochemical route, and they get renewable electricity to convert sunlight, the carbon dioxide, into monoethylene glycol. So remaining this baking soda formation from carbon dioxide, they use carbon dioxide generated from cement industry, and it is also stoichiometric reaction. That means no external energy is required. Like that, Daiku Netherlands, they use about 100 to 150 liters of water is needed to process 1 kg of textile material, and manually about 28 billion kilos of textiles are being dyed. Daiku CO2 based technology for textile drying process eliminates complete water. In this case, carbon dioxide they are not using to make any product. They are using to dry the textiles. If they use carbon based CO2 based drying technology, they can eliminate the usage of water. So they wanted to save the water usage for washing of the textiles. So the Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, Japan's commercial CO2 capture plants, they have developed the process to capture the carbon dioxide generated thermal power plants, and they are giving this technology to the many companies across the globe to capture the carbon dioxide. Mainly the carbon dioxide captured by following this Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Japan's technology. Mostly the after carbon dioxide is converted into urea, but this carbon dioxide capturing by these technologies is very meager. Not even 1% of the carbon dioxide generated all over the world is captured and converted into urea. The reason is urea utilization, urea production. If you entire carbon dioxide generated across the world at all major outlets such as thermal power plants, steel industries, cement industries. If you take all the carbon dioxide and convert into urea, there is no utility for that much urea in the society. So what you have to do, you have to capture the carbon dioxide, you have to convert into energy-rich chemicals like petrol. If you convert all the CO2 captured into the petrol, there will be no reduction. The demand will be very huge. The gasoline produced from carbon dioxide can never be excess. Whatever the carbon dioxide you convert into the petrol by capturing from entire world, it will be less only. It will never exceed the requirement of the society. That is the reason the carbon dioxide has to be converted into fuel chemicals like petrol and carbon monoxide, methanol. Then whatever the carbon dioxide you convert, there will be a demand for its utilization. This slide shows the various products that can be manufactured from the carbon dioxide. As you can see this slide, only carbon monoxide and formic acid are the very expensive chemicals formed out of the carbon dioxide. If you produce ethylene gas, it is $800 per ton. But if you produce methanol, it is only $400 per ton. See, the issue is carbon monoxide, 1 ton formation, 1 ton carbon monoxide costs $1,300. But carbon monoxide is the starting material for methanol synthesis. Today, methanol is produced all over the world by following only from syngas, the thermochemical route. They use the syngas to make the methanol. Carbon dioxide, 1 ton gas costs $1,300. The product formed out of the carbon monoxide costs $400. The one thing what you have to see is the energy density of this one. If you make methanol, you can use it in the internal combustion engines in place of diesel or petrol. But carbon monoxide you cannot use there directly. If you want to use carbon monoxide, you have to use the fuel cells to convert to get the electricity back. But if you use carbon monoxide to make the electricity by using fuel cells, since it is a gas, the volume is a big problem. So we have to have the liquid fuels made out of the carbon dioxide to easily utilizable by the society. So if you make formic acid instead of carbon monoxide, both are $1,300 per ton. Carbon monoxide formation in the electrochemical process is much easier than formic acid formation, because carbon monoxide is a gas. It easily escapes from the electrochemical cell. In comparison to formic acid, if you make, you have to separate it. It is a very expensive process. And one more advantage is, if you make the carbon monoxide and hydrogen gas together can be used to make methanol by following the industry available technology. Once the methanol is produced from the CO2, the CO came from CO2 and hydrogen gas come from the water, the methanol can be eventually converted into gasoline, that is petrol. So we have developed a technology at ARCI to convert carbon dioxide into carbon monoxide. So the carbon monoxide formation, the selectivity and Faraday efficiency was between 95 and 100%. The rate of CO formation, that is the current density is more than 100 milliamps per centimeter square. To generate any gaseous product in any of the electrochemical processes, its rate of formation must exceed more than 100 milliamps per centimeter square. And the process should have very low associated work potentials to minimize the wastage of the electricity. Energy, actually, if you take the water, its energy storage capability is 1.23 electron volts. when you convert water into hydrogen or hydrogen and oxygen gases, it stores 1.23 electron volts energy. Apart from 1.23 electron volts, it needs excess energy to form into hydrogen and oxygen gases. That excess energy goes as a over potential. The energy goes in the form of over potential is a wastage. Energy goes to convert the product from water to hydrogen oxide is a storage. That means only 1.23 electron volts energy can be stored by converting 1 mole water into its corresponding hydrogen and oxygen gases. That means to convert 1 mole water into hydrogen and oxygen gases, you should supply 1.23 volts. If you give only 1.23 volts, there is no over potential. If you suppose 2 volts, if you give the 2 volts minus 1.2, the remaining the 7 volts, the 0.7 volts goes as a wastage. That is in the form of over potential. The idea is to minimize the over potential as much less as possible. So in this case, the CO formation from CO2 is less than 500 millivolts, means less than 0.5 volts only. In our process, we use tin and tin as the cathode we have used, and platinum was as the anode we have used for experiment purpose. And electrolyte was the electrolyte should be compulsorily aprotic and non-aqueous. We have used acetone nitrile containing one ionic liquid and one good I will tell the one supporting electrolyte. The stability of the system, there was no drop in the activity up to 7 hours in the lab test. I will show in the coming slides. The cost involvement, it should be lower than the cost incurred for the CO2 sequestration. Then only it can go to the industry. Okay. This slide shows the cyclic voltammetry conversion of carbon dioxide. As you can see, as I told, the current density should be more than 100 milliamps per centimeter square. As you can see, among all these things, only some tin based metals and tin and bismuth and molybdenum. This red line shows the molybdenum. In this one, brass, bronze, gunmetal made out of tin containing alloys, and bismuth tin and tin. They also contain tin. In this case also, the bismuth is tin. Only tin containing metals among the base metals, the non-precious metals, only tin and molybdenum were found to be best cathodes, catalytic systems to reduce carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide in conjunction with 1-butyl 3-methyl imidazolone tetrafluoroborate room temperature ionic liquid. This slide shows the various apparatus we have used for converting carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide in electrochemical route. This is the setup we used for cyclic voltammetry, and this is the device we are used to pass the gas into the liquid and to maintain the blanket by changing this one. This is the 2-compartment electrochemical cell, contains the Nafion membrane here, and this is the cell we have used. This is the cylinder, shows the isotopic 13 CO2 gas. We have confirmed the CO population from CO2 by using this isotopic 13 CO2 gas as well. This is the schematic diagram, shows the mechanism involved in the reduction of carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide in the electrochemical cell. This cathode is the bismuth alloy, anode is the platinum, contains the in situ formed Nocera catalyst. It's called cobalt phosphate catalyst. When we dip the platinum anode in the solution and bismuth alloy cathode in the organic solvent separated by the Nafion and pass the carbon dioxide and perform the reaction, there is a in situ formation of black color on the surface of the platinum anode. That in situ formation is due to the formation of cobalt phosphate thin film catalyst. That what is that? It reduces the ore potential associated with the oxidation of oxygen into molecular oxidation of water into molecular oxygen and protons. When the water undergoes oxidation, it generates electrons and protons and molecular atoms. Electrons comes from the external circuit and reach the cathode, and protons passes through the Nafion membrane, and this carbon dioxide, by taking these protons and electrons, gets reduced into the carbon monoxide. And people believe that in this process, water also forms as a byproduct. I will tell you, this reaction has been reported for the last 70 years, entire the complete scientific community working across the globe. For the first time, I have proved that in the formation of CO from CO2, water, the protons do not involve. The CO2 reduction to CO is a reverse reaction of CO oxidation in the air. That means CO oxidation in air does not involve protons to undergo into CO. It by directly taking the oxygen, molecular oxygen from the air, it converts into CO2. So what I proved that the CO2 from CO to CO formation does not need protons. It needs only molecular oxygen. I also proved that CO2 to CO formation also does not need protons. It simply removes the oxygen. I will show you the mechanism how it happens. So to prove the, okay, you can see in the cyclic voltammeter, the CO2 is getting reduced here. When catalyst along with the anionic liquid was employed, you can see the reduction potentials. Onset potentials are almost 1 volt lesser than the system which contains no CO2. If you take the bismuth, tin and argon gas, so you cannot see any reduction potentials. But in the case of tin and bismuth, ionic liquid and carbon dioxide, you see the red line here, almost less than 1 volt before you see the reduction potential. This onset reduction potential was due to the CO2 reduction only. In the absence of CO2 and ionic liquid, we could not see this reduction potential in this top with gray and black color lines. To prove this CO2 reduction from this red line was due to the carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide, we have also performed, along with the cyclic voltammetry experiments, we have also performed control potential bulk electrolysis experiments. In this case, we have used carbon 12 isotopic carbon dioxide and carbon 13 isotopic CO2 gas to prove that CO is formed exclusively from CO2 gas, not from any of the other organic matter. As can be seen from this slide, the first graph, after running for around 80 minutes, there was a reduction in the current density. In this particular case, we have filled the electrochemical cell with the carbon dioxide and stopped the carbon dioxide flow. Then after some time, the reduction we have seen a drop in the reduction. That means the carbon dioxide concentration in the solution was reducing. When in another experiment, when we have passed carbon dioxide continuously during the complete experiment, we have not seen any reduction in the current density. We have seen continuously increasing of the current density. That is due to the conversion of carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide. And this third one also shows the same. We have reached, in this case, you see the maximum current density achieved was only 30 milliamps per centimeter square. And the charge density we have reached around 190 coulombs per centimeter square. This is the gas chromatography analysis of the cathode chamber headspace area. The cathode chamber edge surface area contains the CO formation. This oxygen into are from air, and CO is due to the reduction of carbon dioxide. So by using the isotopic 13C CO2, we found that this is the CO, 29 molecular weight, 12 and this is 13 and 16. Oxygen is 16 and 13 is the carbon because it's isotopic. In the second case, you see the 28. 16 and 12 is 28. So this table shows the results of the CO2 reduction to carbon monoxide formed in the bulk control potential bulk electrolysis in a two-compartment electrochemical cell separated by Nafion membrane. In this case, these are the cathodes, and the analyte solution was aqueous-based sodium phosphate buffer we have used, and membrane was the Nafion membrane, and it is the control potential bulk electrolysis time and current density, charge density, Faraday efficiency, selectivity, and mixture of the gases, energy efficiency, turnover frequency, yield of the carbon monoxide, and the gases formed in terms of micromoles per centimeter square per hour. So if you can see the 11th one, it is the non-aqueous one. We have performed for 16 minutes. The selectivity of the CO was more than 98%. And in the case of aqueous media, when no CO2 was used, only hydrogen gas was used, 98% hydrogen gas was formed. So when no CO2 is there, no CO formation was noted. That means CO formation was taking only from the CO2, not from any other system. This also comes out the same. But when instead of water used as the analyte solution, if you use non-aqueous solution as the analyte solution, both catholyte solution and analyte solution are non-aqueous based one, you will not see any formation of hydrogen, only CO formation. That means almost 100% selectivity was due to only CO formation. The advantage of eliminating aqueous-based analyte from the electrochemical system is, the first thing is you can completely eliminate the expensive Nafion membrane from the system. The second one is there is no competitive reaction from hydrogen evolution against the CO formation. The entire supplied electricity is consumed for only CO formation instead of hydrogen formation. It is a byproduct. Once if there is no hydrogen, the separation is easy. Separation of carbon monoxide from the product is easy. If there are two hydrogen and CO together formed, separation also is a problem. So that means to avoid the hydrogen evolution formation and expensive Nafion from the system, we have to use non-aqueous based electrolytes, both anolyte as well as catholyte, along with inexpensive cathode and anode for producing carbon monoxide from carbon dioxide. And if this reaction is performed by using the electricity derived from the sunlight, then this reaction can be taken to the industry. Okay. So during the formation of CO from the CO2 in our system, we have also noted some formation of some solid substance in the catholytic solution. This when we analyzed this solid material formed in the catholytic system, it was identified to be a sodium bicarbonate. So that means along with the CO, another side product, sodium bicarbonate, is also forming. It was also confirmed by the FTIR studies. So what our characterization gave the information that instead of the reaction, that CO2 reduction is not undergoing by involving protons and electrons. The CO2 reduction takes place without involving the protons, as shown in the equation 1. The 2 moles, it is a net reaction. The cathodic off-cell reaction in the absence of analyte aqueous-based analyte solution in the anode compartment, the 2 moles of CO2 gas receives 2 electrons and converts into carbon monoxide and carbonate ion. This carbonate ion passes through the membrane and reaches the anode surface and undergoes oxidation to carbon monoxide and molecular oxygen. It is the net reaction. But so far, all the scientific community believes that in the anodic compartment, water undergoes oxidation to produce protons, electrons, and molecular oxygen. This electrons reaches the cathodic compartment and proton reaches to the Nafion membrane, and the 2 protons and 2 electrons react with CO2 to form CO and 1 water molecule. But in our case, when water is used as an anodic solution in the analyte compartment, water undergoes oxidation, but the produced protons do not involve in the CO2 reduction process. That is what we observed in our experiments. This schematic diagram shows the cell design we have used actually. This is the Nafion membrane. This is the anodic compartment. It is the aqueous-based analyte solution, and this is the cathodic compartment contains non-aqueous electrolyte. When CO2 we pumped here, and when it undergoes reduction, these are the products they form. The CO and hydrogen gas and sodium bicarbonate. We have seen formation of up to maximum 5% of hydrogen gas. That hydrogen gas formed also suggests
Excuse
that.
me, sir.
Sir, tell me, madam. Hello? Are you telling anything?
Sorry, sir. Very sorry to interrupt. Sorry, sir.
Yes,
Sorry to interrupt, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
I am
sir.
hearing you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I am hearing you.
Just that, sir.
Ah.
Sir, the second session has to start at 12, sir. Maybe if you could cover only the
How many
important
minutes, sir?
aspects of the coming slides,
How many-
so that we can have the next session.
How many minutes are there?
Sir?
Okay, how many minutes
Sir, I
are there?
cannot
How
hear
many-
you, sir.
10 minutes.
So maybe 10 minutes.
Okay,
10,
madam, okay, I'll cover it.
10 minutes, sir.
It's okay, madam.
Sorry,
It's
sir.
okay.
Very sorry to interrupt, but
It's
the
okay, madam,
second
yeah.
session has to start. That's why. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, this shows the, okay. Apart from that one, we have also made this third step of practical actual, that is electrochemical splitting of water into hydrogen and oxygen gases. This is the schematic, shows the reaction mechanism involved in our water splitting from the in electrochemical cell, and this is the cell we have used for splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen gases. Okay, this slide shows that the gases formation rate should be 1000 to 3000 amperes per meter square. That means 100 to 300 milliamps per centimeter square. It shows that, so the hydrogen formation from water is more than 200 milliamps per centimeter square. We have noted up to around more than 6 hours. These are the cells we have fabricated at ARC Hyderabad for producing hydrogen from water. Yeah, I will conclude, madam. So, semiconductor and liquid acid photothermal effective technology invented at ARC Hyderabad is a totally game-changing one as far as solving the energy and environment-related problems. The electricity generated from sunlight can be stored like natural photosynthesis stores solar energy to feed more than 7.7 billion people living across the globe in the form of food grains and can be preserved and used as and when required on a demand basis. As and today, no other existing technology can solve the global warming and the social cost of carbon problems other than our ARCI Hyderabad developed technology. Finally, at the last, I would like to acknowledge, I would like to thank Dr. G. Padmaravan sir, Director ARCI Hyderabad, for his support and providing the facility to carry out this reaction. I also thank Dr. Roy Johnson, Associate Director ARSI, for his continuous help and support to take this project very fast. And I thank all my colleagues at ARSI Hyderabad for their kind contribution to the study, and all the students who have been associated with this project since 2010. I would also like to thank Professor C.L. Hill and Yuri Vigeletti at Emory University, Atlanta, Georgia, when they helped me when I went to on IUSTA fellowship to Emory University, Atlanta, Georgia. And I would like to thank SCRB DST AMUQ program for sponsoring to carry out this project. Thank you very much, madam. Madam, I have concluded.
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Professor N. Ponpantian is not here because he is in a meeting. So, on behalf of technology, I heartily thank you, sir. Now, I request the participants, if you have any doubts, you can post it on the chat box. We'll have the next session. Sir?
Sorry, madam, by mistake I pressed that.
Ganesh,
madam. Yes, madam. Yeah. Hello?
Yes,
Are
sir.
you able to see, madam?
Yes, sir. Just five more minutes, sir. If participants, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can hear you, sir.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, sir. I think there are no questions now.
Yeah, there is one Hari Navin, they posted one question.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. The technologies that you developed at ARC, the ultimate aim of reduction of CO2.
Yeah. See, our at present the energy what we use coming from the fossil fuels. The fossil fuels are creating the global warming problem, and the fossil fuels do not last forever. After some point of time, the recoverable coal and crude oil exhausted. We have to find the alternative energy resources. What is alternative energy? Alternative energy is the solar energy only. But solar energy does not give it produces only electricity. And the sun is not available morning and evening and the nights and on cloudy days. If you want to fully depend on the solar energy, you have to store it. The best way of storing solar energy is to convert carbon dioxide to liquid fuel so that the existing energy distribution infrastructure can be utilized without any problem. That is the reason it is converting carbon dioxide to fuel chemicals is nothing but like producing fossil fuels now. And once you produce if you convert carbon dioxide to liquid fuels, the energy density is very high, and we can use all the existing cars and to utilize, and it is like a renewable energy resource. Not like and it also generates carbon dioxide again, but the carbon dioxide can be captured from the automobiles and reconverted into the fuels like methanol and gasoline. That is the reason we are developing carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide process. Tell me, madam. What is the question? Yep. Can you ask someone directly?
Yes, sir.
Somebody posted some question. Can you ask that?
Hari Nivin asks again that in one of the slides, I saw that you were converting CO2 into CO, carbon monoxide.
Yes.
This will issue, sir. What about CO in air? Maybe he is concerned over since CO is also toxic.
Actually,
He's asking if it will be released into the atmosphere. I think
no.
he's asking.
See, today, all over the world, the methanol is produced from carbon monoxide and hydrogen gas, and several million tons of methanol is produced every year, but they're not releasing any carbon monoxide into the atmosphere. So it is already an industrial process. That is not a problem. There is an industrial process already to utilize the carbon monoxide. It is not going to harm anybody.
Yeah, yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, sir. That's it, sir. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
your time. The
Thank you very much.
technologies that you shared with us were really hopeful. Actually, it was hopeful to see such technologies being developed there for a better environment, not only for India, maybe for all over the world. Thank you so much. Maybe if we had more time, we could have listened to also the third part of your work also.
Ah.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you're free, you can also join the second session, sir. It will start in 5 minutes.
Sure,
It
but
is
I will
your
do.
wish, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Participants, the second session will start within few minutes. I request all of you to stay here. Once the speaker joins, we will start the meet.
Hmm.
Hello.
Yeah.
Srividya,
Yes, sir. I'm here, sir.
please stop the record and again start when Dr. Balaji starts.
Sorry, sir.
So could you please stop the recording
Okay, sir.
and again
Okay, sir.
start after the,
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I think Dr. Balaji is already in.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Sir,
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, everyone.